All right, so let's talk about hiking shoes. We're on the eve of the season, and I'm always looking for the next iteration of what I've been wearing. And sometimes the thing is that shoe companies are always upgrading it, and I don't keep up with it. I really don't. It's too tough to keep up with because they're always making new models or making adjustment to old models, and I like that as long as there's improvement. I just don't want to see a new color wave and have it called a new model and then think that that's going to do anything for me. And the truth is if you look at what I wear in the field, I opt for lightweight, waterproof, and durability to some regard, but definitely comfort. And when I say durability to some regard, the problem is when you go with lightweight shoes, a lot of times the amount of miles you're going to get out of those shoes are probably a little less than what you're going to get if you go with a standard hardcore hiker. Now, the trade-off for that is that I'm looking for a shoe that weighs under 1 pound per shoe, 16 ounces. You got to stop using grams. I don't want to have to convert grams to ounces anyways. I'm looking for a 16 ounce or less shoe because the places we go, weight is probably the most important thing. I don't know, that's tough. It's weight or waterproof is the most important thing. So I go with what I've tried and true and tested a lot of times, and what that generally has been over the last few seasons is I am rocking some Merrells. Now, this is the Merrell Moab Speed Mid GTX. GTX obviously meaning Gore-Tex. Now, this is the shoe that I wore last year. The crazy part is that yep, they've come out with the Merrell Moab Speed Mid 2 GTX. I didn't jump in on that yet. Will I? Maybe. But I'm always looking for what's going to be better. What's going to be the next best thing? Is it going to perform better? And to tell you the truth, these Merrell Moab Speed are really good shoes. I like them a lot, and really the biggest factor, as I said, is weight. This shoe in men's size 12, one shoe is right at 14 ounces. That's light. And I like that. So, and the Gore-Tex liners on these proven. They are definitely waterproof, will definitely hold up. Anytime a company announces a new waterproof membrane system, I question that, and here's why. One shoe you won't see up here is last year I started the season with the Columbia Peak Freak. Yep, got suckered by the name. I admit it, suckered by the name. Columbia Peak Freaks. They're lightweight shoes. They have their own waterproof system, and I can tell you what, after the first trip, the waterproof lining failed. So those shoes were no longer waterproof, and I kicked them to the curb, and I swapped out for the Merrell Moab Speeds. Now, just so you understand, a lot of times what I'll do when I find a shoe that I like is I'll immediately go out and buy that exact same model again. That's how I ended up having the Speed 1s still, because this is last year's shoe. So get a close look at that. You can kind of see, yes, two different colors, but you can kind of see the wear and tear from one to the brand new. This shoe has been across hundreds upon hundreds of miles in all kinds of conditions, and no, I did not take the time to clean it up, because why not show you what it looks like after I've rocked it for a really long time. I took this to the mountains on multiple trips. This has been through the woods. This has been across the prairie. I used it for gardening this spring. It's been across literally hundreds of miles, and the thing is, the shoe is still waterproof. It may look beat up. It certainly is beat up. There's some wear and tear down here on the top of the shoe. In terms of tread, not much that you can see. You know, some of the edges are knocked off, but the truth is the treads, except for maybe right here in the middle of the ball of the foot, the tread is pretty much where it was before. So again, that it's tough for me to go away from a shoe that works. Now, I will say the one thing that happened with these Speed 1s is you can kind of see they're splitting off of the sole. Now, I think a lot of that has to do with the amount of flex that's in here. These shoes are highly flexible, so that's probably the give and take, and it's going to be the fail point on this shoe. I've heard some reports online that that's what other people have seen too. Now, I wonder if the Speed 2 was better. It could be, but again, this is just starting to separate like that after hundreds of miles. And these shoes I can still wear. Probably not for much longer because, again, at some point that's going to fail completely, although I could epoxy that back on, but I don't expect to do that in a shoe. These probably retailed when I first bought them. And again, I'm not the first adopter of brand new shoes, so I think they probably retailed for $140, but I generally buy shoes when they're on sale. So I keep an eye out for when shoes are on sale. So I'm happy with these shoes. For $140, a hiker that lasts me a year across hundreds of miles, that's pretty much all I'm expecting out of a shoe. I don't expect a $140 shoe to last me for 4 years. It's never gonna happen. Too much use, too many crazy areas. So $140 for a year on a shoe is pretty much where I'd be. I probably paid $110 for my shoes, and that's probably right about where I'd expect to be. A shoe's gonna last me about a year, if I'm lucky, a year and a half in the field, but really probably not, just a year long. So I'm happy with the way those performed. And so now the question is do I just go back to the well and just rock them again? Just upgrade to the new shoe. Now, you could be wondering, why haven't you started breaking these in if you're at the edge of the season? Well, the truth is these lighter weight shoes, especially these Merrells, my foot's used to them. I don't really have a problem with breaking them in. All the wear spots, because I use them for my training hikes as well. So the bulk of the wear spots on my feet, and my ankles that's all calloused and broken in. So I can just take these straight to the mountain, not really worry about breaking them in. Again, super light. Now, I will tell you, I'm not opposed to upgrading shoes. Again, I went from the Peak Freak, never do those again, to the Speeds, Merrell Speeds. And then in the past, I've had Salomons before. And, the thing I note about Salomons and I remembered about Salomons is, generally speaking, I like that they use kind of what I would call space age materials. Not really space age materials, but like they tend to use materials that feel like they're going to hold up longer. And the last set of Salomons that I rocked, and I can't really recall what the model was, but the last set of Salomons that I wore held up really well. Now, the thing I hated about them, and the reason I'm not wearing Salomons today and they're not my primary shoe, is because those Salomons, a lot of their lighter weight shoes, they're using these Kevlar laces, which are super skinny laces that sometimes they rock into their whatever their lacing system's called. I don't know. I'm not going to keep track of those things. It's too many names to remember. I don't care what you name your system. Just make it work. So that last set of Salomons I had, I remember them well because they stayed waterproof really long and they held up to wear and tear. But I hated those Kevlar laces, and the reason I hated them is because when the laces are so narrow, what I found is that when I laced those suckers down tight, that Kevlar lace would dig into my skin through the shoe, and I didn't like that feeling at all. So, but trolling around online, I happened to see these are the X Ultra Pioneer Mid Salomons, and according to the specs, they were fairly light. And the main thing that I noticed was obviously these have the standard laces. Now, the tread pattern is more probably aggressive than the Merrell Speed, and I like that. The other thing is the shoe itself it's a little more stiff, especially back here in the back. And if you look at the height of the mids, you'll kind of notice that the Salomon is a little higher. I don't know what to think about that. Mids, I generally do like this kind of low mid, if you will. Now, I did notice on the Speed 2s that have come out, it feels like they've added material at the top. So again, I'm kind of glad I didn't jump in on Speed 2s yet, although I may. We'll see. So these Salomon Pioneers, like I said, they tread very aggressive, and I like that. Of course, they name it something. What do they call it? Conta grip? Okay. Stop with the names, people. Just call it your shoe, whatever. Now, they also, instead of using Gore-Tex, they're using, their own proprietary waterproofing on these, whatever that may be. Again, I'm hesitant on that because I've had mixed results on people not using Gore-Tex. Gore-Tex is kind of the standard. It's why shoe companies use it. If, you can come up with something better, I suppose, and not pay the licensing fee, you'll go ahead and use your own proprietary, I suppose. But most of them don't end up being as good. Those Gore-Tex liners don't end up being as good as Gore-Tex itself. Now, so the decision for me is going to come down to which shoe do I go with? Should I go with what I know is going to be a good shoe, or should I go with the unknown? I tend to go with what I know, but here's probably going to be the deciding factor on what shoe I start with this season. I'll try these Salomons out for sure. The Pioneers, I don't really feel Pioneer-ish. Again, I don't really need a name, but anyways. These aren't the latest and greatest. I'm sure that Salomon came out with newer, better shoes, whatever you want to call it. Are they better? I don't really know. They better be lighter to make it better. So I'm sure that Salomon came out with something new, but the deciding factor on these is going to probably be this for what I start out this season. We're going to pretty aggressive places, and I'm going to be carrying a heavy pack. So this shoe, the Moab Speed from Merrell, comes in at just a hair above 14 ounces. This shoe from Salomon comes in at 17 ounces. So I am going to be probably hedging right back to what I know. I'm probably going to go with the Merrells just because that's an additional, and again, it's 17 and change, 17 and a quarter. So really, if you look at it for a pair of shoes, if I wore this pair, it's an additional ½ pound. And you go, well, ½ pound? Every ounce counts. At this point, every ounce counts. So I am thinking I'm going to go ahead and rock the Merrell Moab Speed. And I may look for the Speed 2s. Right now they're retailing at $140, and I don't generally like to pay retail on shoes because I just cut through them too fast. And the iterative design elements, they're not increasing the benefit enough to go with the latest and greatest, by my experience. Now, if some shoe companies out there and goes, we got the latest and greatest for real, like they've changed the game, then I'm probably willing to try that and pay the retail price. But for the most part, shoe companies, they basically are changing color waves and not changing much else in terms of their models. Now, again, the big thing is here too, if you find a shoe that you like, that you're definitely a proponent of, then go ahead and go buy another set of those right now, because there's a very good chance that the company's going to phase those out. Can you find Merrell Moab Speed 1s anymore. You cannot. They're gone. Is the Speed 2 going to be just as good? I don't know. But luckily, I've got my extra backup pair here. So that's probably the shoe I'm going to start with this season, just simply because of the weight and proven waterproof. Will it fail in the same way over the course of a few hundred miles that this shoe has started to do? Yeah, probably. I mean, you know, they've made at the exact same time, in the exact same way. So it's very likely the fail point on this shoe is going to be the same, but I'll have the Pioneers in the truck ready to test. And I mean, there's a chance I could go with these, but yeah, this year in terms of shoes, I am going to start on the mountain with the Merrell Moab Speed GTX. Salomon, you've got a chance. We'll see how it works out. Must be time to go outside. Anyways, there you go. Follow, subscribe, like, and I'll see you on the mountain.